In the autumn of 1938, the American home was built around a singular altar of wood and wire. The radio was not merely an appliance. It was the vox populi, the voice of the people, and the sole window into a world increasingly shrouded in shadow. On October 30th, the night before Halloween, millions of citizens sat in their parlors, the air smelling of wood smoke and floor wax. They were seeking a brief interregnum, a temporary pause, from the crushing weight of the Great Depression and the rising clamor of war in Europe. They expected a play. What they received was a masterclass in psychological disruption that would blur the line between fiction and terrifying reality. Context is the crucible of history. To understand the panic, one must feel the humidity of 1938's collective anxiety. The public lived in a state of perpetuum mobile, constant motion, fueled by fear of the next war. When the radio interrupted music with news, it usually meant the Sudetenland had fallen or a treaty had been shredded. The listeners were conditioned to believe the breaking bulletin. Orson Welles, the 23-year-old enfant terrible of the Mercury Theatre, understood this implicitly. He didn't just want to tell H.G. Wells' story of a Martian invasion, he wanted to hijack the medium's credibility. The broadcast began with a deceptive status quo, the existing state of affairs. Smooth dance music by Ramon Raquello and his orchestra filled the airwaves. It was boring. It was safe. It was the perfect shroud. Then, the first puncture of the veil. A bulletin about strange explosions on Mars. Then another, moving to a farm in Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Wells utilized a verisimilitude, the appearance of truth, that was revolutionary. He used silence. He used the sound of a microphone being dropped. He captured the frantic, breathless gasps of a reporter describing a humming metal cylinder. Think of the smell of ozone in that studio, the heat of the heavy lights, and the frantic hand signals behind the glass. As the reporter described the Martian heat ray incinerating a crowd, the audio was punctuated by the shrill, curdling screams of actors. To the listener, this wasn't theater. It was a live obituary for the human race. The traditional narrative suggests a consensus omnium, a universal agreement, of total hysteria. We are told that millions fled into the night, but the historian must look closer. The panic was a localized phenomenon. In the crowded tenements of Newark and the quiet lanes of Princeton, the noise was not of falling bombs, but of slamming car doors and frantic telephone hand cranks. However, the primary driver of the mass hysteria story was not the listeners, but the newspapers. Print media felt the odium, the intense dislike, for radio, their greatest competitor. By sensationalizing the panic the next morning, newspapers sought to prove that radio was too dangerous, too unregulated, and too fake to be trusted. The following morning, the tabula rasa, the clean slate, of the American psyche, was etched with a new skepticism. In reality, he had performed a public vivisection of the American mind. He proved that a voice coming from a box could bypass logic and strike directly at the limbic system. The event became a sine qua non, an essential condition, for studying media influence. It taught us that in the absence of visual proof, the imagination is the most terrifying architect of all. We look back at the citizens of 1938 and smile at their naivete. Yet we live in an era of deepfakes and algorithmic echo chambers. The War of the Worlds was not a one-time accident. It was a blueprint. It remains a haunting reminder that our reality is only as solid as the sources we trust. On that cold October night, Mars didn't invade New Jersey, but fear did, and it never truly left.